Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. My name is Dan Hafner. I have another guest for you guys today. We're going to talk a little bit about, we talk a lot about software development. This is a software and technology show, but the world of AI is changing the world of software development. It is changing it not only for software developers, but for people who want to break into the software space and actually build products. I talk a lot about that on this show. And I have a special guest here that's going to kind of enlighten us, talk about a tool he's built, but kind of also the future and what this space holds, because it's changing the game for everyone right now. So this is going to be a very, very exciting episode. I'm really excited to bring this to you. So before I bring him in, please be sure to subscribe to the show, like this episode, share this episode wherever you're listening, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever. Please give us a rating and follow. That's really, really, really appreciated. And happy early Christmas. Merry early Christmas to all of you. This might get released before Christmas, I think. If it's after Christmas, hope you had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We'll see when the release date comes out on this. But happy holidays to anyone who's listening and watching. So without any further ado, welcome to the show. I have Mr. Will Blackburn. He is the co-founder of a tool called DevClarity, and he is big into the software development world, AI world, and kind of combining these two. So welcome to the show, Will. How are you?
Yeah, doing well, Dan. Thanks for having me. Excited for our conversation today.
Yeah, this is going to be really exciting. So tell us a little bit about high level view of your background, how you got into this space, kind of what you're doing now with DevClarity, how it's all going.
Yeah. So I am a software developer by trade, studied computer science in college, and really during that time, I just fell in love with building things with technology. It was such an amazing experience. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. Went and bought PHP and MySQL for Dummies at the library. Actually, didn't even buy it. I just went into a bookstore and got it out and set my computer down beside it and taught myself. Started to teach myself how to code and fell in love with it from that moment on. Switched my major to computer science, and the rest is history, as they say.
Right.
Uh, at the same time, I fell in love with entrepreneurship and startups, and just really thought that um, fit my personality well, and it was going to let me be a part of shipping product all the time. And so I've been in the startup and entrepreneurship space since I graduated. I've been out of school about 11 years now, and so have only stayed in the startup world. But really had my first true success in my last role, where I was a founding employee day one and the sole software developer. And then over the course of about 7 to 8 years, I grew into the chief technology officer role, the CTO role, and eventually led a development product team of about 35 across the United States. And so it was in that role where I went from the sole developer to a manager of a small team to eventually a CTO, where I made a lot of mistakes, but I kind of learned how the dev leadership world works.
Look at that. I mean, coming in day one and then go, building up to being a CTO. That's really awesome. Good for you. But I did want to add, this may be a curveball question you might not have been expecting, but it's very interesting that you talk about like how you got into the world of coding and programming languages, but then you also became interested in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And that's actually a very interesting like tandem. I don't know about you. Do you see like a lot of do you think, here's my question, do you think that having that kind of knowledge or knowing how to build software kind of leads to having an entrepreneurial mindset? Or do you think having an entrepreneurial mindset and tendency can kind of lead you to need to learn how to code because you want to build your own things? Like this is like a chicken and the egg question.
Yeah. It's a good question. And I can think of examples where people have come at it from both ways. And so I'm not sure that there's like a first principle here that really says like one way over the other, because I know, like you said, like I know of a lot of entrepreneurs who said like, oh, if I could just build this myself, then that would let me iterate faster. It would take someone else out of the loop. I've got this idea in my head. I just want to go build it. And so they've taught themselves how to code. And I think as we'll get into the discussion today, if you're going to take that path, now's the best time. Now's the best time in history for you to do that
Yeah.
because of these AI coding tools. Still not going to be easy for you, and oftentimes you can get a prototype up quickly, and then you get to a point where you're stuck. So you've got to be willing to do the hard work to still figure things out. For me, I am a nerd and just love the tech, and so it wasn't just a means to an end for me. I just love doing it. I love coding. I love building product. And so I just found that I guess that I'm fortunate to have both of these loves that complement each other so well.
Yeah, I mean, I just really, not to beat a dead horse, but I think like it really does lend itself to each other because I think like, there is something to, entrepreneurship is creating. It's creating something out of an idea, right?
Mhm.
It's kind of taking that vision that you have in your mind of whatever you want this business or this product to be and bringing it to life. And coding and building software is that exact process. So I think they align really, really well in terms of that. But that also leads us, it's a very good segue into what we're talking about today, around, you mentioned like, hey, I have this idea in my head. This is exactly how I got my start in software development. Was I had an idea in my head, but I didn't know how to code, and I went to learn how to
Mhm.
code, and I went the no code route. If you've looked into what I do a little bit more, I didn't. Kudos to you of someone who really went down that path and figured it out. I was like, no, that ain't me. I'm going to figure out the no code way. Um, but it's there. But AI has changed the game for a lot of us, right? Especially inside of the software world, but then people who have ideas because, well, let me ask you this: like, is AI like the magic bullet? Like, you hear a lot of things like, okay, ChatGPT has this canvas now where you can,
Yeah.
create code, and then you can just like have your own app. And it's like, well, what do you need software developers for? And I'm kind of curious on your thought, like how is AI changing this world? Is it good? Is it bad? Like, I'm curious on your thoughts.
Yeah. That's a big question.
It
And
is.
so
It's a
there's
very
there's
broad
yeah, there's a
question.
lot that you
Yes.
can
Yeah.
go into it. I think specifically around like, is it a magic bullet, silver bullet type of a thing? Uh, I don't like to use words like that because you know, I have tried to kind of like look back in history before my time and think about like, okay, how has development been done? Like, what did that look like? What are the other revolutions that have happened to software development? And when you look back over time, this isn't the first time where a big like productivity unlock has come for software developers. If you go
Hmm.
back to the 60s, you had developers who were writing their applications on punch cards, like physically punching holes into cards that machines would read. And then they went from that
Mhm.
to using magnetic tape. And then all of a sudden they could write, 100 times more code and have it stored and update programs instead of having to completely uh, punch cards again. And then we had this revolution that where we went from these lower programming languages to higher level programming languages. And with that, a task that might have taken 3 days before, might just take a few hours. And
Hmm.
so when you look back over the history of software development, you see that some of these revolutions have happened before. And you can actually take it a step further and think about this spectrum of like talking to computers. At the end of the day, since computers have come out, we've been trying to find ways to give them commands and have them execute something for us. And again, when we first got started, we were writing this very low level machine language code, like physically telling the computer where to store something and then where to take it. And over time, we've abstracted away from that and we've kind of moved down the spectrum to where today we're getting to the point where we can talk in very, human language to the code, and it gets converted into code for us, and then it gets executed. And so I think when you look throughout history, we're just continuing to move up the spectrum of making it easier for us to give uh, computers commands that we want them to execute. And yeah,
Yeah.
and so I think that's like how I try to step back and look at what's happening, to just like kind of level set and ground, because there's a lot of hype out there, and rightfully so. But it's kind of
Hmm.
tricky to see like where are we today and where do we think we're gonna go in the future.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of, and I hope this doesn't bore anyone, but it reminds me of a thesis I did in college, actually, our senior project where I was, because it was, I won't get into it because it had a little bit of a political lean, but it was what I based a lot of things on was there was a Darwinian theory of punctuated equilibrium. And basically what it was, the theory was that, animals over the course of time will stay very similar for a long period of time. And then there's a rapid
Yeah,
revolution or evolution, and then they completely change, and then it's like it's equilibrium,
yeah,
and then it's boom, and then there's a big change, and then it's back to
right.
equilibrium, right? And that kind of made me think about this. Is it they're I think computing, at least, there's a lot shorter of a time frame we're talking about, maybe, but there's also probably like big leaps forward like this, like
Yeah.
AI, I didn't know about the punch cards. That's wild. That's absolutely crazy. But it just made me think about that. That's kind of neither here nor there. But
Well,
so
like,
no,
well,
go
just
ahead.
to kind
Go
of,
ahead.
yeah, double click on that for a second. Yeah, progression is not linear. Like it happens in bounds, and then and so we are
Hmm.
at one of those moments where we've had this explosion, and that's why, like, my recommendation to everyone is to lean in on this and play around with it, explore it, use the tech. Use the tech is what I always like to say, because that's where you're going to figure out like where is this helpful, where is it not helpful, like where are the rough edges still, where can, like, how can we get this in our environment, in our workflow. And you're only going to be able to figure that out if you lean into it and use the tech. And so when you step back and you see that, hey, this has happened before, but every time it's happened it's changed the game, then that hopefully motivates you to lean in on it.
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of that in our world. There's no context to a lot of stuff. It's like, there's you see this on the news a lot. Like there's, oh my gosh, like big crazy stories of things that happen. You're like, well, that actually happened 50 years ago, but like nobody knows about it because nobody highlights it. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting to think about. Okay, so how is AI, usable for um so let's just go back to the example we talked about. Like you have an idea in your head now, maybe you do know a little bit of coding, maybe you don't know coding. Where does one start? Let's start maybe there. How can you use these tools? Where do you
Yeah.
find these types of things? Maybe this is where dev clarity comes in. Like what how is this changing?
Yeah. Um, Yeah, I think you're asking the right questions, which is what's my level of expertise, what's my level of understanding and knowledge, and then what's my goal right now. And with those things in mind, that should really chart the path that you need to take. If you are someone who isn't technical, and you're just at the like early idea stage, then rather than like going and spending tons and tons of time, but like becoming an expert programmer, you probably should look at some low code, no code tools. You should um, find ways to use AI to prototype out something quickly that you can get in front of some people and really start to test your idea. And so that's like one area. I think another area, and a lot of the companies we serve with Dev Clarity, they are further down the path. They've got software developers. They have an application that they're trying to support, and they are looking at AI and saying, like, okay, this is the next big leap forward in productivity for software developers. How can I better use AI, and how can I empower my leaders to lead my team well? And so in that case, that's when it's a completely different framework. Instead of looking at low code, no code tools, you're already taking care of a code repository. You've already got an application. And so you're looking at tools like GitHub Copilot. I'm a big fan of the Cursor editor IDE for software developers, which is, and they've got a lot of AI features embedded into their application. And so that is really what those teams should be looking at.
Okay. All right. Let's actually pull that up here. So, for those of you watching on either Spotify or YouTube, this is Dev Clarity. We just got the website pulled up.
Yeah.
So how did Dev Clarity come to be? What is this tool? How does this work?
Yeah. Yeah. So really, where Dev Clarity came from is during that like amazing opportunity that I had to go from a founding employee to a CTO of a company, eventually leading a team of close to 40 people, is like I learned so much through that experience and made so many mistakes. And
Don't we
through it
all?
all, through it all, I really continued to question, like, why isn't there more tooling for development leaders? You've got so many tools for software developers to write better code, but there's not a lot of tool for software development leaders. And so I was doing a lot of things in Excel. I was creating a bunch of OneNotes that would just get completely cluttered in my OneDrive and I would lose track of. And so after that company actually exited, and that was at the end of 2022, my co-founder and I got a chance to, again, take a step back and think about what were the challenges we had in building this company from 4 people to 160 people, from a development team of 1 to a development team of 35, and how could we build a platform to help? And we continue to come back to the fact that leading developers is difficult. It's difficult for a number of reasons. And one of those is that you've got all this information in different places. And because you're leading technical resources, that information is foggy. Who's contributed to what project? Who knows what system? Like where are the skill sets around the team? And so we've created a platform to help development leaders with that. We think it's even more important in an AI world where the individual impact that a developer can have is only going to increase. And so if you're managing your team well, then you're going to be able to, meet the initiatives that the company has set out. And so just quickly, where we help today is we provide some tools and a new system of record for development leaders. Engineering managers, VPs, directors, they can have dev-specific one-on-ones inside of our platform. We're using generative AI to summarize up, to extract out sentiment, to look at things like skills and systems inside your company, to basically create visibility and a structure that allows your management to scale. Kind of the first challenge of development leaders is for their technology to scale, but then right after that is for their management to scale and their leadership to scale. And so that's where we help out.
Very cool. Yeah. So if you guys watching, I'd stop sharing it now, but I mean, the pricing on it's very, very affordable. Looks like a really, really neat tool. Very, very, very cool thing. I mean, it kind of reminded me a little bit of maybe this is a swear word. I don't know how to say, but it was kind of like a way cooler type of Jira like type of thing, but it looked very, very clean and very, very easy to use.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so so we're not trying to replace Jira or a true like SELC project tracker. Like you definitely still need that. We actually integrate with Jira. We're about to come out with our Azure DevOps integration as well, to where we can like pull in some of this information and again just like make it more clear for development leaders. Who knows what? Where can we move people forward? How can we better align what developers want to do with what the company needs to do? And again, give the development leaders a tool that gets them out of Excel, out of OneNote, gets some of this information out of their head, and helps them lead their team better.
Yeah, got to get it out of your head. That's where ideas really go to die because you forget about them.
Yep, exactly.
Let me ask you this. What is the coolest application that you've seen of AI in software development? Is there like something that sticks out in your mind of like, wow, that was actually really cool?
Yeah. A few things come to mind. I'll tell you about, this doesn't entirely answer the question, but I'll tell you about an experiment that we're actually doing right now with our team at Dev Clarity. We're a small development team,
Behind the
but this
scenes
week
stuff.
actually,
Nice.
so it's Thursday, so we're 4 days into this. we're doing a 5-day experiment where we can only accept AI generated code, meaning that we cannot write a single line of code manually.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
and and the reason we wanted to do this is because what I found throughout my leadership career is that when you set a constraint like this, it really brings all of those like paper cuts and all of those small annoyances to the surface.
Mhm.
And instead of living with those and having those continue to build and accumulate up, and you end up with an experiment where developers aren't happy with the tools that we're using, or like I would use it, but I always run into this problem. When you create a constraint like this, those rise to the surface and you've set time aside to solve them. And so this week, we've actually been knocking out a number of paper cuts that come with using AI to code. And so to give you an example of what we're doing, we use Cursor, which is an AI specific editor. It's a fork of VS Code, which is a very popular editor in the development world. And one of the things that you can do with it is you can create what's called a cursor rules file. And this allows you to add a bunch of instructions, and you can say, hey, this is our stack. This is the technologies we use. This is what we prefer. This is how we want to style this type of class. And it actually injects it into every other prompt that gets sent by the cursor editor. And so it's a way to really improve the output that you're going to get back from AI. And so we've made a lot of edits to that file this week as we've like continue to encounter like, when we ask AI to do something in this area, like it does this, but we really don't want it to do that. And so again, that's a paper cut. We've got to go in and change it. And so now as we've improved that cursor rules file, as we've improved other pieces of our code base, we're getting better and better output from the AI code. We're not going
Yeah.
to do this forever, but it's been a
Yeah.
fun experiment this week.
Yeah, I bet it has. It's really cool. I like I'm a big analogy guy. So I like what you talked about the paper cut. You're like, okay, I see what it did, but I don't really want it to do that. Um, that's interesting because, I mean, I think that kind of leads to a bigger thing of you hear about all these, again, there's a lot of hype out there. There's a lot of things of like, well, software developers are going to be pretty much obsolete in 10 years, but
Yeah.
it's also, I mean, I would probably think you don't believe that as well. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would
Yeah.
probably think that you wouldn't. But like, so, I mean, that kind of leads us, it leads me to my next question of like, where do you see this world being like in 5 years, 10 years, like with the advancements? Are we kind of in that punctuated equilibrium, like that punctuation mark right now, and we're going to get to an equilibrium, or is it like the price of Bitcoin that's just going to go to the moon? Like what stage of the game are we at right now?
Yeah, I definitely think we're still in the early days,
Hmm.
and so I still think that there's a lot of changes to come. So we serve,
It's exciting.
yeah, we serve a number of customers. A lot of these companies have, hundreds of software developers, and they are like, when you talk to them and you say like, okay, where are you? Are you guys using AI coding? What's it like? Um, you can just tell that there's still so much room for growth in how they're using these systems, and and I think that that's an important point to make, which is that the way most companies and developers have experienced this technology so far is not ideal. It is, when I think of how to get good output from code, I think of you've got the model, you've got the prompt, and then you've got context that you're able to give it. So those three pieces. The model is handled by somebody else, and it's really good at this point. So it's good enough to give us good code. What is handled by the user is the prompt and then the context. And
Yeah.
where we see most people using AI right now is just with a like a Copilot extension that they have in their code base. And so maybe they're tagging files to give it context about a particular system. Oftentimes they're not even doing that. And so they're getting suboptimal code. and they're thinking like, I knew this was just hype. Like this can't write good code. Maybe it can do some
Garbage in, garbage
boilerplate
out, right?
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But they're not recognizing that if you put in more work, and it's real work at this point, but if you put in that work, you're going to get much better code getting outputted. And so, um, even if the models stop at this point and they don't get much better over the next few years, you're going to see better workflows get built into these editors and eventually get adopted by these companies that's going to lead them to greater output. I'm not worried about um, my job as a developer, and I'm not worried about a number of other developers' jobs either. But we have to recognize that the world is changing and you're going to be generating more output via prompts, whether you like it or not. And it's not going to be gone forever, I don't think. I think you'll still have to write code, by keyboard. But this is going to change the workflow. What I would also say to finish this way too long monologue is that the people who are best positioned to take advantage of this opportunity and to increase the impact that they have in their companies and in the products that they love are developers. You understand the technology. You can catch when AI is going down a rabbit hole that you need to pull it back from. And so again, if you lean into the technology, you're going to really be able to understand how to use these tools. You're going to be able to increase the impact you have at your organization. And the company is going to look at you and say, these are the people that we need to keep because we're able to get done what we want to get done and need to get done. There's a whole opportunity now for non-technical people and low code and no code applications as well. But that doesn't change the fact that we've got, trillions of lines of legacy code systems out there that's going to need to be supported, and developers with good AI tools will be the ones to do that.
Yeah, that's why I love talking with people who come on to the show that do code because I'm in the no code space. So it does provide this like very interesting thing because there are times where when I see AI what it can do and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need to figure some stuff out. But no, that's very interesting. So prompt engineering, learning prompt engineering, I think is from what I heard from you is really going to be a very, very key thing. But a question I also, you see a lot of reports out there, you see a lot of different forecasts of things. Me being in the no code space, I'm very cognizant there's a lot of people that if you're in the no code space, people are very hyped about the no code space. Like they're like, oh my gosh, it's the trend. It's kind of like AI, right? So I've seen a lot that are saying, in the next 10 to 20 years, the threshold is going to cross over 50% where all the development projects that are out there, more than half will be done inside of a low code, no code technology, right? Take it for what you will. I'm curious to ask you in 10 or 20 years of all software that's out there and being built, what percentage, if you had to give it a percentage, would you say would be built mainly using AI coding?
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's a great question. My my gut would tell me like 95+% of it
Wow.
is being, yeah, in some way generated by AI coding. And that just might be like better autocomplete functionality. Like right now, there's like a tab functionality in every AI system, where as you start to type code, it's predicting what the next line is.
So you're
Um,
saying, just hold on. So you're saying in 10 to 20 years, it will be 95%. It's not 95% right now.
that's right. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Wow. I didn't
Yeah.
expect the number that high.
Yeah, I think just
Interesting.
when you look at it, I think that it's going to get more and more integrated into just how developers write their normal code. Microsoft just this week announced that Copilot's now available for free inside VS Code. And
Mhm.
so like there's like everyone is going to be using these tools, and then as these tools get better at doing things like running the test suite automatically and then seeing what the issues are and then fixing the issues before like I have to go in there and do it again, just going to make more and more sense to have these tools integrated into code. Again, I think that there will still be developers that are orchestrating these systems and talking to these systems and reviewing the code and then writing the code that they need to write to get the AI where it needs to go. But yeah, like who knows what the world's going to look like in 10 years. So
Yeah, yeah, that's wild. I did not expect a 95% number. That's pretty crazy. I mean, I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'm just saying like that's actually like pretty wild to think about.
yeah,
Wow, very cool.
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, do you have anything else to add? I mean, we definitely we showed Dev Clarity. You guys
Yeah,
can
thanks for doing that.
it's devclarity.ai, right? You
That's
can check
right.
that out.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so
The,
we'll put the link for that in there. Do you have anything else to add before we wrap up?
well, I was just going to say that, the thing that excites us and like why we wake up every day wanting to work on this is that um, as the impact of individual developers increases with this next leap forward in productivity, leading these developers well matters even more. And so that's the problem space that we're tackling and working on. We know that it's difficult. We've done it before. We've failed. We've had successes. And so that's really where we're trying to help out leaders today. And just really appreciate the opportunity to come and share my story.
Yeah, absolutely. It was very interesting when I saw the platform and I was like, definitely want to have you on here and talk about this. So I'm glad we were able to make this happen. So awesome. Awesome. Is there anywhere we could probably connect with you on LinkedIn
Yeah,
or anything like
LinkedIn
that?
is where I'm the most active. So yeah, find me, send me a message, and be happy to talk.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Will. We really appreciate you coming on. This has been very, very enlightening for me, as I'm sure for the audience as well. So very exciting stuff. Very exciting stuff.
Yeah, thanks,
Well,
Dan.
thank you so much again. Yeah. So, all right, guys, that is a wrap for this episode. Be sure to check out devclarity.ai, connect with Will on LinkedIn. And don't forget to thumbs up this show or like or subscribe or give us a rating or whatever the heck you want to do, because this is a show worth sharing. I think this is really, really interesting. If you know someone who's in this space or thinking about getting into this space, it's such a big opportunity. It's really, really exciting stuff. So that is a wrap on this episode, and we'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.